Exactly. They're in 7th place right now, so they have not even secured themselves a spot, and there's still multiple weeks left. So we'll see what happens, but I am looking forward to what happens with Damonte here in the mid lane, what happens with Mash, and then also what does the pick and ban look like here for Echo Fox, because we know they scrim in-house, and Acadians talked about, hey, you don't fight your competition all the time in real sports, so don't fight them and scrim them all the time and show your strategies. So I want to see what they have cooked up on 7-13.
Well, one of the bans you always get to see on Red Side is Zac. Absolutely obnoxious right now, a terror from the jungle. You're always going to see Red Side banning that away. Caitlyn and Elise also banned out by these guys, as Kennen, Kassadin, and Talia will be focused by Immortals, really heavily looking into those solo lanes as they lock in LeBlanc for themselves, and Echo Fox goes for Kalista Rakan, first rotation.
We talked about how Pobelter had a really rough week against both Ryu and Bjergsen. This is a great champion for him to carry on. He can 1-3-1, apply the pressure, dominates a lot of the lanes, and then Echo Fox on the other side, Kalista Rakan. This was a 100% win rate in the LCK, LMS, LPL Rift Rivals, and then it started falling over into the LCK itself, where it's constantly banned. Kalista is just a champion people do not want to have enable supports, and so we'll see what Mash looks like on this champion, with Gate trying to make a little bit more plays and having the opportunity to do so.
Pobelter just messing around with a couple of different picks here and ends up locking in the Alistar for his team to go along with the Xayah, who was also picked up answering the bottom lane with a bottom lane. And it seems Echo Fox is going to go ahead and make sure this first round of the picks ends up going completely mirrored, getting Cassiopeia there for Damonte to go up against LeBlanc from Pobelter. Second round to the ban starts up, and Gragas is removed.
Yeah, Cassiopeia, pretty good pick for scaling especially. It allows them to have that late game insurance, and Echo Fox games, they've had those early game advantages. Can they win those late game fights? We'll see what happens, but up against the LeBlanc, not the most favorable of matchups, but it can prevent and you can outplay on the W of LeBlanc with grounded effect.
And Pobelter is one of those players that you know can use a champion like LeBlanc very, very effectively, just because of what he can do as a split pusher, as a 1v1er. His mechanical talent is there to make those famous 200 IQ outplays.
See if he ends up having 200 IQ today, or if we're going to drop a 0 on it. But yes, Olay with the Alistar. I'm excited about this because this is before Alistar got the buffs on 7.14, which is the live patch. People are just realizing, oh yeah, it's a great engaged champion. You think about it, Braum is still up, Tom Kench is still up. There's so many things that were available. What they're trying to do is counter a little bit of that Rakan, and it's a great laning phase, right? Rakan is not a lane bully in the slightest at all. Right. You can play pretty much anything into him, which opens up the Alistar for those mid-late game, just game-deciding headbutt pulverizes. So I want to see what Olay does on this champion.
Now, that second part of the bans, he saw a lot of jungle focus. Nidalee, Olaf, Gragas all removed. Rumble also taken off the table by Immortals. Echo Fox, though, sees that Gnar is still up, and with the popularity and power of the champion, they'll immediately lock that one in. Immortals does the same with Jarvan.
Yeah, Jarvan comes through here, so you have to pick up your jungler here for Immortals, unless that is a jungle Jarvan. Still a decent amount on the table, though. See what happens here. You can play Jarvan into the Gnar. And the Rek'Sai.
Been very popular after that slew of buffs after the initial rework. Rek'Sai kind of felt underwhelming at the start, but then the buffs came through, and all of a sudden she became a solo queue terror. Also been seeing a lot of play in the professional circuit. In LCS, though, does not have a good record.
Yeah, it's a champion that people have been back and forth on in terms of Cinderhulk versus Warrior. If you go for Warrior Enchant, you're trying to win that early game and trying to snowball. Whereas if you go for the Cinderhulk, you're trying to, kind of benefit from the buffs of Cinderhulk or the changes and go for a very tanky route, which I expect to come from Xmithie, where he'll be able to protect his laners here with both the Tremor Sense and the fact that he can actually help with the gank assistance.
Well, he'll be going up against Acadian on the Lee Sin, the evergreen jungler. Always capable of making those plays, getting the early ganks off. Pretty much unless this guy's nerfed into the ground, he's always a presence.
Yeah, Lee Sin pretty much can always be played in the jungle. And even when he's nerfed to the ground, there's always those people who just love Lee Sin and will play him no matter what.
Yeah.
Or the Lee Sin one tricks. But Acadian's going to pick up that champion for today. It's a pretty good matchup. Not overwhelming or anything like that. But we'll see what happens. It'll be hard for him to get in these fights and kick back anybody in particular. Getting on Xayah is pretty difficult, where she can just Feather Storm. The Alistar kind of makes it a nightmare. So we're looking at a composition from Immortals that has some pretty good early mid-game, and then they can team fight rather well, and they split push with 1-3-1. But then Echo Fox have kind of a 4-1 split push. They have some late game scaling with the Cassiopeia, and then their engage, it's going to be on Olay to try and stop it because it's pretty heavy on Echo Fox's side with Rakan and Kalista.
And remember to keep those eyes on the mid lane and the bottom lane for Echo Fox in particular, seeing how these substitutions pay off, seeing how this team plays with 2 new parts in the mix,
yeah,
especially in terms of the resource allocation. Will Damonte be given as much help and as much assistance as is normally given to Froggen? Are they going to facilitate him getting as far ahead as Froggen can, or are they going to take an entirely different strategy? All these different questions Echo Fox posing to us, now we're going to get to see the answers.
I'm really excited as well. Like, I haven't been excited about like MASH in particular for a while, since he was on Coast and had jumping around different challenger teams. But I've talked to him like pretty recently, I would say in the last few months, and he was talking about how he kind of adopted a mentality of, I don't care, but not in the bad way, right? It's where you don't care to the point where things stress you. So he's like kind of promised that he's going to be a little more aggressive now, and that his play style is shifted from being very passive, kind of like what you used to know.
The crowd knows what they like.
I like how he was like baiting it there.
Yeah, dude. He's doing the cowbell animation until the camera goes to him, and then he's like, wait, I wasn't doing anything.
One?
Yes.
One?
He's staggering the donks. That's what you got to do. That's how you make a new tune. Donk, 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 donk. Minions have I remember the discussion when this skin first came out that we were having in the office of people saying, is this going to be banned in LCS? Because if it's not, this is all you're ever going to get when anyone picks Alistar.
It's tilting. It's really tilting.
Especially for a champ that's so good at baiting in the first place. You just stand under your tower and bang that stupid bell, and then they have to try to dive you, and then you just flash your mastery and kill them both.
Smithy getting a leash here. We'll see if they can steal any away.
Remember, stealing 1 small chicken stops them from getting the level 2 before the big one. Stealing 2 stops them from getting level 2 from the camp entirely. Ooh. Good job from MASH there.
Yeah, and Damonte's doing the Faker special here, where you take Corrupting Potion level 1, you stand in front of your their minion backline, and you just E the person constantly. And that's how Faker gets a lot of people out of lane. You'll see Doran's ring starts for a lot of Cassiopeias, but you just start Corrupting Potion, and you just Twin Fang them over and over again, because minion aggro is drawn from auto attacks, not spell casts, so you can walk past them and just keep hissing at them.
And that's definitely a spooky snake right now, because Pobelter doesn't want to go anywhere near him level 1 compared to level 2. He'll just wait for Damonte to naturally push this one forward, taking those last hits, and making sure he doesn't get completely shoved out of lane.
Yeah, and so Pobelter played it quite well, actually, just going back and forth and making sure that he doesn't take too much in terms of losses there. But a ward goes over onto the left side where they knew Xmithy started on the bottom right in terms of the Raptor camp, and that he would transition to the top left. So making sure that he doesn't get a good route into mid lane with that early ward.
Looper versus Flame in this top side. Laning against Gnar pretty much just becomes trying to have the least obnoxious time possible in the top lane. Gnar is very, very difficult to deal with for a lot of melee champions, but Flame seems to be handling it pretty okay for himself. Pobelter goes in onto Damonte, finds himself some decent burst, and then gets out before the trade goes south.
Yeah, it was good from Pobelter because he just hit level 3, so he went in with the full trade where Damonte was still level 2 because of the way that the minion wave would bounce back. So because Pobelter was slightly behind, but ahead in experience in positioning. And Xmithy, I believe he was, I don't know if he was spotted there. He actually went over the side. So Damonte might think he's safe.
Xmithy wants to go for it, flashing into the knockup. Damonte knows he's not getting out, and first blood over to the notorious POB.
Yeah, Xmithy went through the Rift Herald pit, or the Baron pit there, and then just went over and waited his entire cooldown of the 22 seconds of the tunnel and just chilled. So very patient gank there from Xmithy to get first blood there for Pobelter.
And that's the power of Rek'Sai. Old Rek'Sai, new Rek'Sai, that kind of early gank potential is something this champion is awesome for.
Yeah, and this is 22 seconds, just patient, just wait, chill, take a breather, listen to some donks.
And
that's a long time, right? Like, look. It's been a long time.
Okay.
And then they get him there. All right. So yeah, exactly. They got his heal as well, but seriously, like a very long time. So it's very commendable just seeing how Xmithy has kind of sacrificed his route a little bit in favor of that because he was level 3, could have done a full clear. then goes and gets the blue buff, puts down another ward, looks for the Raptors at 420.
Waits for Acadian to go in and then puts damage back onto him. That bite. Quite a lot of burst coming out of that one. One thing I want to point out, Xmithy is doing the old Rek'Sai strategy of maxing the Q as opposed to the E.
Yeah, it's interesting. I really like the E max, but if you go for Q max, then it means that he's probably going Cinder Hulk here, and then he's going to be looking for, hold on, doesn't have the flash to knock up Damonte, but Damonte's going to take a lot of damage.
Yeah, the fact that he was able to zone Damonte back so he couldn't fight back and give Pobelter that trade, that's good enough.
Yeah, definitely good enough. And they're going to go in, deal a lot of damage to Nash here.
Yeah, Nash takes some damage, returns some onto Olay. Not really any kill threat just yet between these two, and I think the keyboard struck back with a vengeance. Not quite sure, but considering the pause is now on your screen, and that's the issue that was happening earlier, I can only think it's probably something along those same lines, as the players end up getting the action interrupted there in bottom side, but it was mostly over anyway.
Yeah, they were just disengaging and walking back, but yes, Acadian ends up having a gigantic farm lead, but there is an assist going over to Xmithy from his early play, and Xmithy invaded on the second Raptors and got the smite on the big one, so was able to take that away from Acadian and kind of slow his route down. But like I was talking about how Pobelter got shut down mid against Bjergsen and Ryu, and Xmithy kind of, his jungle got seeded because you lose the middle part of the map. They're trying to kind of double down and not make sure that happens here. Just focus that more and try to just get an advantage over Damonte, who's a rookie on the stage right now.
Quick update on the pause. It appears Damonte is having a visual issue, taking some time to reset his settings, get himself back into game, and make sure everything's A-okay for how he wants to be playing the game. Not exactly a time when you want to be having visual problems. You're playing in your first NA-LCS match.
I mean, Mike Young did it. No, no, Mike Young actually played his first NALCS match and had wrong mouse settings and wrong monitor settings. So he was talking about that, like, oh, maybe not the best debut. But I'm glad Damonte paused. He died.
Well,
I'm glad he paused though, because like you said, you don't want to have to go through those. And a lot of people don't want to pause as a rookie to be like, oh, let me disrupt my entire team to work on this issue.
Maybe that was his visual issue. His screen was black and white.
I was just thinking that when it paused, and I was like, you better not make that joke. Like, Freak makes that joke every time. It's like, oh, he's got a black and white monitor. Ha 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 ha. Like, come on.
I had to do it. It's right there. It's for the taking.
You no longer get my sword, so axe and bow.
I've still got an axe and a bow. That's fine. I still got 2 out of 3.
You can still lose those 2. Anyway, yeah, Damonte, yes. Now LeBlanc just jumps in and does so much. And Xmithy was there as insurance, too, off on the side. But yes, like I said in the Champions, like, you have to outplay really hard. TP behind, looking for a play here from, looks like, Pobelter.
Olay and Cody trying to make it happen. Olay going to find himself taken down as Pobelter looks to come in for some revenge. Instead, going to find himself on out a little bit. Acadian rooted up, not going to be brought down just yet. Another TP going to be channeled. Flame coming in, Cataclysm down onto Mash. More damage coming through. The stun down onto Flame. He's going to be taken out next as Xmithy comes in looking for yet another, but will not find it.
Yeah, it ends up being, I believe, a 2 for 2 when everything's all said. 1 for 2, actually. But one more kill goes over to Pobelter, so he's 3-0 up against Damonte, who was just kind of trying to farm in that mid lane again and get himself back into this game.
10.3 to 10.2 thousand gold, though. It could not be much closer, Zyrene. Fox responding well down there in that bottom part of the map. Coming out on top of the trade is what they needed after Pobelter's early advantage mid.
Yeah, Acadian isn't spotted just yet, but he goes around, waits a little bit longer. Mash holding on to his Rend, waiting for the exhaust to wear off. Pobelter comes through. And then that pull through from Cody-san, such a good blade caller there that actually ended up giving themselves a lot of time there. They'll pick up Mash here at the end of it. The Looper comes through with the teleport, and he was in Mega Gnar and got a Gnar off at level 6. It is actually so rare that you have a Gnar that is level 6, because the Fury generation is like much lower, actually have a teleport come through where he is transformed. So Looper played that quite well to arrive at that point in time.
Was just informed also that the last time Mash and Gate played together was when they were both rocking Phoenix 1 colors, and their overall record was 14-27. So not the winningest combination.
But they were a combination.
They were a combination.
But I will say, like I said before, Mash kind of had a mentality shift where he said he was going to be a little bit more aggressive. And it showed a little bit there. They're playing up in lane. I always remember Mash as the guy who's always a little bit down in CS, but at the same time,
not losing you the game. And then later on, ooh, Not quite getting that headbutt where he wanted it, though.
Yeah, not quite.
Slipped off the back.
Yeah. Like I was saying, Mash is the guy who would sometimes end up having these late game blunders, but he's being a little bit more aggressive in terms of his early game. And a little bit smarter and safer here, too. You can see.
This is quite the standoff, as everyone just wants to wait for their opponent to move first.
Interesting that he threw the Sentinel down the river, where he already has one, instead of towards the bush if he thinks he's going to get ganked. But it's good for him to hold off. Really well played.
Plenty of spears there into Flame, but they don't do a lot of damage when Golden Aegis can be popped to block most of it. Damonte shoving up here mid lane, 61 CS compared to the 58 of his opponent. So despite the fact that he's 0-2 up against the 3-0 LeBlanc, he's been doing a good job in the farm department. He's not falling behind in terms of those resources. He's still going to have some heat.
Yeah, hasn't been able to roam too much, but my big concern here for Echo Fox is that bottom turret has just been taking some free hits from both Cody Sun and Olay. Yeah, Looper kind of was a little bit absent there. And it's below half HP. And the reason that Echo Fox went for this lane swap isn't because, like, you look at the situation, they actually had more assists and a CS advantage on Mash before they swapped, but it's because they think Gnar will hold up in the 2-on-1 better than the Jarvan will, so that Echo Fox believe they'll get that top turret a little bit sooner.
Now Fox sending Mash and Gate down through the river to clear out some of this vision. Kalista with both her Sentinels prowling around will help keep an eye out if anyone's trying to collapse. Immortals bottom laners. Acadian's hanging around here, but they're still not too afraid of anything just yet. No turrets taken down, no Drakes taken out. The Mountain Drake is the first one. That's a pretty valuable target. So whichever one of these two teams can find some objective play first will snowball the momentum of this one.
And this is such an interesting game from the get-go here, because it was about, I would say, 600 gold up for Immortals at one point after the 2 kills. The kills have been even back, but one of those is first blood, so there's bonus gold on top of it. But you look at the gold, and it's pretty much neck and neck. It just keeps fluctuating between when people are picking up waves and not. And Smithy, yeah, gets called off of the Dragon to go look at the bottom turret to try and rush it down, because they're going to rush the top turret, but this one's going to go down faster, so win for Immortals here.
When your opponents go for the first turret, you got to try to race them if you can. That extra money for getting that first one down is so huge. And Echo Fox miss out on getting it today as the chain finds its way onto Damonte, but it will not proc. I thought for sure he was going to stay in range of that. That thing is deceptively difficult to get away from.
Oh yeah, it's super long.
Smithy now over onto the Mountain Drake. He's got the help of his bottom lane since they were able to coordinate properly. And you like seeing that too. You don't want to see the jungler on the Drake, the bottom lane of the turret. Get everybody working on the same page.
Yeah, I'm looking for step 2 here. You get the turret, but what are you getting off of it? Immortals, this one I think is better because they're getting this dragon. What Fox is going for is a 2-man push on the top side to shove this all the way into the tier 2. No damage on the tier 2. They don't get the Rift Herald in response either because Flame was kind of covering that too. So honestly, Immortals get first turret, and they get the Mountain Drake on top of that. And that's the advantage that they get over their opponents there for pretty much nothing.
Better overall macro play coming in from this team, which is what you would expect from one that's so much higher in the standings. Good job baiting out that Petrifying Gaze, but getting out in time from Pobelter.
Yeah, Damonte threw out Petrifying Gaze and the W, so if he was to land the Petrifying Gaze on Pobelter, he wouldn't have been able to flash away or return to his W afterwards, and they would have killed him. So Pobelter snapping back then and avoiding it was crucial.
Absolutely clutch. Plus, that means that the ultimate is down from Damonte for the next 90 seconds or so, which gives Pobelter quite the window to apply the pressure here in mid lane, as Mash and Gate will be called in as the reinforcements.
After they get that top turret, they can go ahead and look at the central part of that. But Smithy on the Rift Herald already, so depends if this is sniffed out or not.
Looks like there might be a little bit of curiosity coming in there from Echo Fox. Gate with the ward over the wall. We'll go ahead and see what's going on before the control ward takes care of that and blinds the vision, but it's not like Echo Fox is sending anybody over to try to stop this. They're just going to yield the objective, concede for now.
When you have a 3-0 mid laner and an advantage there, the rest of the map is kind of trivial where you can just open it up, you can get to these neutral objectives, and that's why it's so important to have control of mid, because you can easily transition that to control of the Drake or control of the Rift Herald very quickly. And look at this. Ooh.
Instant flash.
Also a play possibly being set up on the top side of the map with Smithy and Olay. Remember, Alistar, we haven't seen him in a while, but he's a champion that is excellent at diving and picking people off.
Smithy finding Gate, taking about 40% of his HP bar off. Fate's Call, going to be bringing it back, trying to keep him safe. Mash still got to peel for himself, though.
Looper almost transformed.
Looper has 99% of a Gnar bar ready to go. Now he's hit it. Can he get in there and find the CC they're looking for? Olay knocked up into the air. Looper still looking to make this one happen. Looper gets himself the kill. Olay drops, but that's the only casualty in this fight.
Yeah, and that's going to even up the gold again. But Rift Herald in favor of Immortals, as well as that Mountain Drake. Damonte, though, they're looking for a pick on him. They know he doesn't have flash.
Yeah, the flash gone means he is caught out of position pretty hard. The damage flies through, but he still gets himself away for now. Belter coming in over the wall. Damonte grabbed the kill onto Xmithy. And Echo Fox have turned things around, if only for a moment. They go 1 for 1 here. Damonte drops, but then everybody else decides to disengage.
Damonte drops, but got himself a kill and assist. Rod of Ages completed and his tier, so he's going for a little more scaling here and waiting for that late game. Part of the game that Echo Fox has kind of struggled in, but we'll see once again what their shot calling and lane allocation looks like without Froggen. That was good. They pull back after the charm. Olay, really early use of the ultimate there, the Unbreakable, the Unbreakable Will, which ends up being a big part of this fight where they're able to pick him off on the backside. If he was going for a full tower dive, then it was an appropriate use, but it was just too early on it and felt he was going to take way more damage than that off the bat. And this right here was just kind of a pick off on Damonte, but a great ultimate there. Stuns up Xmithy, who then uses the ulti to try and get one back, and just barely helps them get it. Whereas Pobelter moves to 4-0. Pobelter has every single kill on Immortals right now.
And I want to go back to what we were talking about in Champions Select. Looking at the substitutions on the side of Echo Fox, wondering about how they're going to play the game differently. This is not the way an Echo Fox game would look if Froggen was mid. If Froggen was at a disadvantage to start, they would give him the help to instantly get him right back into the game and make sure he was as relevant as ever. With Damonte, they're saying, it looks like mid has kind of fallen on hard times. Things haven't gone the way that they need to there. Play around elsewhere.
Well, it's also, they drafted themselves, even though they had last pick and they knew what they were going into in terms of the LeBlanc anyway, because it was LeBlanc first and then they picked Cassiopeia third. They gave a matchup that, you know, is about scaling, about that late game. So you can kind of focus other lanes. Ganking LeBlanc isn't really great either. So I feel like Acadians didn't really have much of a way to affect this lane in the first place. And you kind of have to leave Damonte to his own devices in terms of avoiding ganks, avoiding pressure. It's like, ah, man, it sucks. You know, you aren't a winning matchup, and the rule of jungling is you should play to your winning lanes. So play to your top lane, play to your bottom lane here. And it's just going to work out better for Echo Fox, where this Cassiopeia will eventually do, quote-unquote, like Cassiopeia things, which is scale, right?
Right.
So you don't really have to give him that much attention early on and just hope that he can play it safe. Like you were saying, I assume from Champions Select, Froggen would have had a different matchup, so I think it's kind of apples to oranges in terms of comparison.
Right, it's not so much of a comparison of what the two are doing in-game as a comparison to how everything was set up.
Yes.
If you had the other player in the game.
Everything would have been different. Probably a different pick, and probably a different way of playing the game in terms of who you're playing to.
Which is exactly what Echo Fox is trying to do with this whole 10-man roster thing. They want to switch up the strategies. They want to make sure that they can bring these extra elements in. And especially for this team, the team that only scrims within their own organization. They don't bother scrimming their opponents. If you're able to set up multiple strategies like that and just completely flip the playbook on your opponents, that can be really, really good.
Yeah, and you only have a finite amount of practice time, though, so it's always important about how you slice the cake, because have you played with Damonte and Mash, Acadian, Looper, Gate, these 5 specifically against the other 5? And if they sub somebody else out and it's like, oh, let's play Froggen instead of Damonte this game, have you played with those 4 like standard Echo Fox members plus Mash? Because it's different, right? And you want to be able to like play everything, but it's kind of an ideal world where you have infinite time to just try every combination out.
Right.
So you have to assume that in the week and a half that they had off, Echo Fox were able to kind of look at that and say, all right, this is a good pair for us to have here, and something made their eye quite keen to the combination here.
That's something that was addressed at the top of the day on the desk. They were talking about seeing the changes in patch 7.13. These teams have had time to play on it a little bit. They've had more time to adapt to it than what we saw from the teams that were playing at Rift Rivals last week. So they may have some special tricks up their sleeve in terms of what they want to get done and how they want to do it. But Mountain Drake #2 is live now. Immortals was able to control the first one. They've got themselves over 2,000 gold up on their opponents, so they're going to be controlling the second one as well. Will Echo Fox fight for it?
Looper trying to get some of his rage. Getting a little poke here. Damonte's a little bit late. They're going to try to walk up. Gate's going to try to look for a charm.
Jade finds a charm onto a couple. Drake going to be taken low, secured by Xmithy. Olay in the middle of multiple people from Echo Fox, likely going to be the sacrificial cow here. As Looper grabs himself kill number 1. Over the wall goes Xmithy.
Yeah, Xmithy got over the wall, even though he got knocked up by Fate's Call, so it was a little bit strange in terms of how those kind of abilities buffered over each other, but he was able to make it out scot-free without having to use his flash there.
Very, very fortunate for him, trading away the life of your support for grabbing that second Mountain Drake. A-OK in the Immortals book.
Yeah, Echo Fox were a little late to it, didn't have mid-priority. Demonte was a bit lagging behind, and then Acadian actually kicks Pobelter out of the fight, so that's why Echo Fox wanted it so badly after that, is they knew that Pobelter didn't really have a good avenue in after that point. And Pobelter right now is kind of the whole heartbeat of this game. He has every kill right now for Immortals, and Smithy went the tank route so he could take a little bit of a beating here and be a bit of a frontliner. And he's going for Knight's Vow second, which I assume he'll use onto Pobelter. But you can see Acadian jumps in, kicks Pobelter out, and that was pretty much his contribution to that fight, as the rest of the team was fighting off on the side. If Acadian's able to get that one dude, the Fed guy, out of there, then it's a worth fight there. And look at this Mash on the side. Can't really do much against this.
Speaking of that Fed guy, one last auto attack would do it, but Mash lives.
Yeah, Pobelter not flashing for the auto afterwards and didn't really want to risk it. And so Mash uses both summoners there. Pobelter doesn't have to use a single one there. And this is what's so scary about the LeBlanc. If she gets ahead and she has good lane matchups, she can just split push, she has teleport, and it becomes a nightmare with that Gunblade completed.
The nightmare continues. The tier 2 takes more and more damage. Going to be brought down now by Immortals, who go up to a 4-1 turret lead. 2 Drakes to 0 as well. The objective game is just nowhere close between these two. We've talked about the Echo Fox mid and late game problems, and as we're getting into this mid game in earnest now, 20 minutes into the game, it's very apparent that their macro control is lacking.
Yeah, it's now become kind of the Echo Fox meme of like, oh, the late game throws and stuff like that. But this is an early game issue that happened in this game. Demonte got camped, ended up having not the greatest of performances so far in terms of his rookie debut. And then when they went for the turret trades on the side, they gave up Mountain and first turret in terms of gold, and the rest of that was an even trade. So Immortals just strictly got a better trade out of the deal.
Not where you want to be, Echo Fox, trying to shore up these problems as we get further into Summer Split. And remember, we're not sitting on the first part of the split anymore. We don't have the, oh, they've got plenty of time. Don't worry about it. You can fix these mistakes before playoffs excuse anymore. Every team coming into this week has 8 matches left to play. Then you're either heading to playoffs or you're heading home.
Yeah, and honestly, Echo Fox, it's been a story of this team for a while now. They've had multiple splits, years now. Hold on, Looper.
Oh, Looper gonna get chained up there. Tries to get himself away. Nice wallop to stun up the LeBlanc, but it will not be enough. Pobelter grabbing number 5.
Yeah, just gets ganked there. Doesn't even have to use teleport or anything like that, or no summoner spells. So they are kind of robbing Echo Fox in those side lanes. And this is the LeBlanc providing so much pressure. Once again, Pobelter, like we've said, 5 for 5 in terms of the kills. He's got all of them right now.
Immortals just sets 3 men up middle, puts Flame bottom, and then Pobelter just lurks in the jungle back and forth between the two, waiting to see where he might be able to find a pick. And it's so incredibly threatening, because once he shows up, it's 2 summoner spells or you're dead.
Yeah, and it's exactly how Pobelter is intentionally playing this as well, because he has a sweeping lens, so he knows we can kind of infer that that is exactly how he's trying to do it. Avoid all wards, help them split push, and that's 2 turrets right there for 0 in return. Immortals now up 6-1. Looking for an engage onto Xmithy.
Mash for Fate's Call, looking to chain CC him until, nope. Not gonna get away from that one. Until death do him part from Summoner's Rift. 30 seconds and he'll be back, but for now, that's a nice pick from Echo Fox. Using a couple ultimates to get it, but what are they gonna get now?
Exactly, what are they gonna do? They have a Cassiopeia. Is Baron on the table, or is it just a bait? Because they used both the charm from the ultimate of Rakan, and they used the ultimate from Callista. So it looks like just a little bit of baiting back and forth, and not too much else. So it's kind of just a pick, and that's it.
And that's a big problem for a lot of the teams that you see that are in the middle to the bottom of the standings in the LCS. They can make the picks, they can make the plays, but then what does it transition into afterwards? What's the reward for it? Or is the pick the reward in itself?
Yeah, that's kind of what this was, is the pick was the reward. There's no dragon to take. Baron is a very risky objective to do, and the fact that they have double teleport means it's even riskier to try and do, because they can always contest it a bit. What they're rewarded with is control of the Baron pit for now in terms of wards. So Xmithie will have to go up here, sweep around, have to clear out some vision wards as well. And it gave Looper time to split push on the bottom side of the map and make his way towards this turret. And you want to split push, get this bottom wave and mid wave pushed out before this dragon comes up again.
Yeah, losing the third mountain would be disastrous for Echo Fox. It means you have to just be on pins and needles the entire time if there's not vision on Baron, or if the LeBlanc or the Jarvan or anyone is split pushing, because the objectives will fall so quickly to that 30% bonus that it just adds a whole other element of stress and requirement for perfect rotations to the game.
Exactly. I really like the way you phrase that too, because it just stresses how much you need to be perfect in terms of your execution and your decision making, right? Decision making is honestly kind of a very difficult part of the game, where there's always decisions you have to be making. And if you make the wrong one or you hesitate on the right one for just a moment, then it could be devastating to the entire state of the game. Let's see.
People top near the Baron pit for Echo Fox.
Yeah, they have a Callista as well, so doing the Baron would be interesting. But Mountain Drake on the table. Cody-san, I believe, will start that up now as the Xayah.
It's not like they need Xmithie to do it. Cody has plenty of damage to secure it himself. No one from Echo Fox is anywhere nearby, so Immortals will hit that 3 Mountain Drake status.
Very scary point to be in right now, but Echo Fox are still trying to scale, right? They're still trying to get their Cassiopeia to a point where, you know, she's got enough items to be a huge threat. And this is kind of just the dance right now of the state of the game. Looper finally has his Frozen Mallet, so 1v1ing isn't a huge issue for him unless it's the LeBlanc who can still burst him because of his lack of resistances. But otherwise, Looper's in a good spot now. Damonte still needs to scale, and Pobelter, on the other hand, in a very good spot for himself. And Cody-san is actually the recipient of the Knight's Vow here. It makes more sense since Pobelter will be, you know, split pushing most of the time.
And you know, it's kind of the state of the game top lane right now. You always see these bruiser type champions go for 2 HP items, Black Cleaver and Titanic Hydra or Frozen Mallet, depending on which side you're looking at, and then the Gargoyle Stoneplate, almost always third, giving them those resistances, allowing them to survive in the team fight. But until you have that 3-item spike, if you go into the fight at the wrong time, you're going to be dead pretty quick.
You're squishy, and everything's effective against you. You don't have much armor, you don't have much MR. Once you get Gargoyle Stoneplate, though, it completely flips that dynamic where your bruisers are now tanks. Right. And that's why we've been seeing more Renekton, Gnar, Jarvan, right? Everything can utilize that at the 3-item power spike and be not just that bruiser, but somebody who deals a lot of damage and then becomes a tank, so you don't have to see things like Poppy or Maokai all the time right now.
Immortals pushing up into this mid lane, putting a little damage down onto the tier 3, but it's the bottom lane where the story's really being told. Pobelter doing the split push that he's adept at doing, as now the engaged mid lane from Echo Fox jumping in onto Cody, who uses the ult, getting himself back. Looper going to be juggled around as he's not able to get himself into the middle of the fight. Monte tried to chase these guys down, but doesn't quite have the speed or the stickiness to stay attached. Pobelter is still in the base, though. He never left.
Yeah, Pobelter was just, you know, he right-clicked and profit. Just got the turret. Looper, though, is going to try to go for him.
Oh, but Acadian's there. Pobelter going to need some fancy feet to get away from this one.
Oh, he got the Frozen Mallet, though. Oh, he didn't chase. Okay.
Flash got Pobelter away.
Yep.
Meanwhile, the rest of Immortals, they're saying, okay, now you're going to deal with Pobelter, now we're going to deal with this. Echo Fox has arrived. Baron down very low, going to be secured by Xmithie. Damonte into the pit, getting himself bursted down now, popping the Archangel, still being able to keep himself alive for now. And Damonte slithers away until he is dunked right back down into the third flame. Looking about like a pincushion, but Mash is taken down by Pobelter. The entrance into the fight with the TP will be enough to sway this one, as Gate tries to keep himself alive with a little bit more fancy moves. Still staying around somehow. Acadian going to be the target next. Pobelter with the chains, the roots, the damage, everything coming out onto Acadian, who dashes away in time. Xmithie on the hunt as Looper tries to contain 3, just biding the time for now, but it will not be enough. Oh, godlike Pobelter, Immortals with Baron, Acadian down, and that should be the ace for Immortals.
And honestly, Echo Fox just get run around the map. They can't deal with Pobelter on the bottom side, and then they started up on the top side. It's a great macro call from Immortals. We talked about it at the very beginning. They're here for a reason, but the Monte tries to go for broke. Little late there on the Flash ultimate. Doesn't stun anybody either. It's just some damage. And then Mash here actually looks like he can take over this fight. If they keep Mash safe, he jumps out, but then Pobelter immediately gets on him after Xmithie gets the knockup. So Mash maybe would have been able to navigate that with a little bit more peel or positioning, but he was still trying his hardest, but really, Immortals played this perfectly. And in terms of the actual team fight itself, Flame backs, TP's back in, and then Looper here was just waiting to transform that whole time, was waiting to get that Gnar off.
That's the trouble with poor little Gnar. Unless he can manage to charge that bar, his team fighting presence is not really a lot of anything. And now Immortals have Baron buff. Now they've got that along with 3 Mountain Drakes, and this is an incredibly difficult challenge to have to deal with.
You have 3 Mountain Drakes, you have 1-3-1, a Fed split pusher, a 7-0 and 1 LeBlanc that nobody can really deal with here, and the Baron buff on top of it. Pobelter is kind of unanswerable right now, and you can see they're going to split, even though they don't have teleports right now, they're going to split with the 1-3-1 and just utilize the Baron buff to its fullest extent here.
The pressure is on, and Echo Fox has to find the miracle defense somewhere. Components still being assembled for stone plates on both sides. Xmithy goes ahead and completes his after the Night's Vow. So once he does go in for those initial knockups, he's going to be very difficult to actually dispatch. Couple that with the fact that Olay's got himself a locket. He's got his own ultimate, which is like a super stone plate. And now Looper's getting juggled around. More damage coming into him. Ultimate used defensively as he jumps away, barely staying alive. Brayseeker not quite on the mark. Pobelter grabbing the inhibitor in the bottom side. Flame will be taken down. DeMonte grabs that kill for himself. That's 1 for 0 on the side of Echo Fox. Gate dashing back to the safety of his ally. Meanwhile, the tier 3 dies mid lane too. Oh, there's just so many threats across the map for Immortals that even when Echo Fox seems to get a win, they're still taking an L.
Yeah, even though Looper got away by the skin of his teeth, they lost the bottom inhibitor, they lost the mid turret, and this is just one of those situations where because they have Baron buff and Immortals were doing so well early, then this is kind of the payment for that. Their mistakes are not punished as hard. And when you try to engage and get something back, then you actually lose more than what you gained. And it's kind of that rough situation to be in terms of the state of the game. But
Looper tries to go in and jump onto Pobelter, but again, the damage from a Death Cap, Banshee's Veil, Gunblade, LeBlanc is just too much when all you have is a Negatron Cloak.
Yeah, and this is so interesting from Pobelter as well because he's clearly in the state of mind of, I've snowballed, let's just end this damn game. Because he has Death Cap. Normally you see Void Staff third item to get through some of those resistances where you would be like, okay, Acadian has, you know, completed Spectre's Cal, there's some MR coming through, but he's just like, nope, let's just go for this, let's just make sure that I can decimate people, and he can blow up almost anybody on the enemy team here, even without the Void Staff, which is coming in next.
Plus getting all that extra AP means he takes down structures very fast.
Yep. Well, it's a great point. Helps him out a whole bunch. And then right here, went for the double knockups on Looper, and this is that situation where you go, oh, Looper makes it out. This should be amazing for them. Brayseeker just barely misses. They get Flame here, but they actually just lose their inhibitor from Pobelter, and they lose that turret. And they kind of went for a little bit more there, but like I said, it's a harder team to really kind of capitalize on once you've done the engaging, because you throw in your support, and if you don't catch Cody Sun or Olay, they're just going to keep peeling back and forth, and then it becomes a really rough team fight from there. So you have to get him in one fell swoop.
Baron power play of over 5,000 gold for Immortals, putting that one to good use as they pick up their 4th elemental Drake of the game. A Cloud, so it'll help a little bit with those rotations back and forth between the lanes that Pobelter's been liking to make the entire game, but honestly, they're just looking to end it right now. Like you said, Pobelter is in GG mode. He's got the Void Staff now.
Yeah, he's full build right now, depending on what he does with the Dark Seal. But otherwise, all inventory slots are full. And I'm looking at the build of his teammates, and you can see Xmithy has the full-on just activatable, let's help my team out build with the Knight's Vow that he's put on Cody Sun, and then he also has the Stone Plate plus the Locket Shield, which will shield for about 2,000-ish on everybody around him. A very quickly decaying shield, but this is the best situation to be in as a tank Rek'Sai. Everybody's fed, I get to just buy these items, and they're going to do all the work.
Yep, you go in, tank everything, pop a giant shield. Yep. Cody and Pobelter kill everybody.
Exactly, and it's all about keeping them safe now because you're so far ahead. If you can keep them safe with the Gargoyle Stone Plate plus Locket, and then Cody Sun has his own QSS, which there isn't a whole lot to actually QSS on the enemy team, except for the kind of guaranteed engage of the Rakan if he blows his combo. But this is how you stop Echo Fox getting back into the game, right? You shut down their win condition by being so far ahead at this point that you can close game out with no hope of them actually getting something back.
And I love seeing teams recognize not only their own win conditions, but their loss conditions as well. What is the one way that this game goes to our opponent's favor, and how do we lock that out of ever happening? so critical for a team to prevent themselves from throwing a game away.
Spoken like a true Skarner player who plays against people who don't buy QSS.
Exactly. What is the one way that they could possibly win? As now, the remaining Tier 3 under siege from Immortals. Echo Fox will try their damnedest to defend it, but it's down to 10% HP. And with Immortals as strong as they are, over 10,000 gold ahead, with all those Drake buffs, it's nigh impossible to hold the line against this.
Yeah, but Damonte gets to pick up some CS. Cassiopeia has gone kind of unharassed after those first early few deaths and then jump into the Baron.
But when you compare his gold to his opponent's, now the
fight
could go off. No time for comparisons. Acadian nearly going to be bursted down there as Gate gets himself back. Flame looking to go right back here into the fight. Looper taking a lot of damage from those chains. McSmithy still on that front line. Gargoyle Stone Plate in action. Turret destroyed. Tier 3 on the top side falls. Damonte looking to get out. Flame still chasing that one down as much as he can.
Nobody's dead
He doesn't want to pursue any further. Nobody died in the entire engage. Echo Fox in danger of losing their final inhibitor. That will fall. Knock up there onto Acadian, who has to go in the defensive once more as Pobelter finds one kill. Make it two. A double for the mid laner. As now Echo Fox stands 3 versus 5. Only their Nexus remaining. Mash is trying to kite, but you can't kite damage like that.
Got him.
Or can you? The shutdown on the Pobelter ruins the perfect game, but the Nexus is going to be ruined next. Immortals only has to put a couple more auto attacks into it. Cody will pad the stats a little bit, and Immortals will take game 1.
And we talked about how Rift Rivals came up and people were talking about the week before, oh, Immortals should be going, right? 7-1, had a little bit of a stumble. That game right there just showed that they still had that macro game. They still have that foundation that if you try to trade them and you don't know exactly how to navigate the trade, then they're going to get the better part of the deal.
And Pobelter coming back into that form that we expected of him, that we were hoping for from him, that he displayed at the beginning of the split, being the carry that helps Immortals get their job done, being the guy you can rely on saying, look, if he gets going, he can do his job, he can execute on the mechanics, he knows his role.
Yeah, and he got a decent amount of help, but it definitely was the fact that Damonte seemed a little bit uncomfortable in the mid lane early on, got solo killed, got ganked by Xmithy, so I definitely feel like it's a legitimate strategy to go after somebody who is new on stage, who may be experiencing some nerves. It's their first time there. I think it's definitely something that you can exploit. And we saw a little bit of that here in terms of the way that Xmithy approached the lane and kind of threw away a little part of his early jungling route to go for that gank, but it made all the difference in the game.
Oh yeah, the mental part of the game just as important as any other aspect. If you can get inside your opponent's head and really just use that experience advantage, it can go a long way. But we're going to go ahead and toss things over to Riven Azael to get their thoughts on the Immortals win.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, and indeed a quick win by Immortals. I love just seeing the suits come out of here. It's absolutely crazy. It draws my eye every time. Anyways, Immortals, victory, doing great, coming back into town, and business as usual to start things off. As Zyrene was saying in the end there, that they were able to kind of focus a little bit on Damonte in the mid lane and give him a bit of trouble.
Yeah, and I mean, he's obviously going to be the kind of the big story for the game.
Yeah.
He's coming in, he's new to the scene, and someone who's going to be focused so heavily, I think, on the LCS stage and talking about the nerves. I think that's an issue there. And Echo Fox, though, they're trying to use their 10-man roster. They're trying to switch things around, see how it's going to work for them. Early gank from Smithy, and he actually waited a really long time to make this gank happen. They get the early kill for Pobelter onto him, and then Pobelter is just able to kind of start picking up kill after kill after kill onto Damonte, and Pobelter became absolutely massive in this game.
And it's good to see that when the player gets this kind of ability, Pobelter still unlocks that extra advantage door. He says, well, this is happening. I can continue to go around the map, picking up player of the game as he was just a complete rock for his team the entire time there. And on that, we did see Echo Fox having a pretty, or not on that, but besides that, we saw Echo Fox having a decent early game besides what was happening to Damonte in the middle. But when it spread out, Immortals again running the macro, running the map.
Well, it's one of those things where they were able to get kills, but what could they get done with their kills, right? The guys were talking about it a little bit in the cast, where it's one of those situations where you need to get more than the kill, you need to get the follow-up objective afterwards, and it never felt like they had the waves in the right position, they never had the vision, they never had like the setup to actually get something after they get their kills. So yes, they were actually leading in kills for a while. It was like 6-5 with all 5 kills on Pobelter, but they didn't have dragons, they didn't have turrets, they weren't able to actually capitalize and really establish a gold lead. So despite being behind in kills, Immortals was up in gold, and Pobelter was such a point of strength that no one's going to be able to answer him in a side lane.
Pretty
he
ridiculous.
Can split push you out. Like, he can take over team fights. You see why the pick is so popular.
Yeah, being able to make single plays by himself. And we move on to 27 minutes in here. Immortals, a 5-for-1 plus the Baron. And it actually looked great for Echo Fox until you realized Pobelter was coming into the fight still.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the start definitely looks good, but Pobelter, as he arrives, he's such a strong member for the team. You know, Cody's son is already dead before Pobelter even starts TPing pretty much,
Yeah.
but as he enters, he's so ridiculously strong, and no one really there to actually deal with him when they have all this front line around him. They're able to have, you know, Ole and Smithy tanking up so much, and they have another TP coming back in from Flame because he's able to get out of the fight, use the Baron recall, which was really smart. I think most players would have actually stuck around and tried to fight it out at low health, but
right.
Utilizing the Baron recall and the TP was super smart there, and it just meant that there was not enough left for Echo Fox to actually win that fight.
Really just all around the map, Immortals able to secure this one very fast. You see the gold graph all the way up on their side. And like we said, Echo Fox trying things out, looking to see what Demonte can do in the middle. It wasn't exactly a composition they were going to run as they would for Froggen. That's what we usually see, is trying to get that mid lane going. Maybe they do, maybe they leave Demonte in next time. How do you kind of feel about what transpired? Right?
I mean, I think it's a one-off game, right? You're playing against an extremely snowbally champion in LeBlanc,
Absolutely.
and you're playing against Pobelter, who's very good at the champion. If you get
Finding
focused by this jungler, it's someone that I think anyone could fall behind and have a bad game, right? So I think you should give him another shot. If you give him the first one, let him have a chance to actually bounce back and get some of that confidence going, because you know he was still ahead in CS despite actually being down a number of deaths. So it's not like the lane was a complete trap.